I'm Cecilia Alvarez, and I've always been the one who holds it together. In a crowded conference room in downtown Portland, I'm walking my team through a cybersecurity protocol. My voice steady, despite the weight of the moment. Charts glow on the screen. Behind me, mapping out server protections for a client who trusts me to keep their data safe. I'm in my element, focused, precise, the person everyone counts on. Then my phone starts buzzing. One vibration, then two, then a relentless hum that drowns out my thoughts. I try to ignore it, but it's like an itch I can't scratch. My gut whisks, and I know it's not just a work mail. 1 second, I say, flashing a tight smile to the room and step into the hallway. The screen lights up with my mom's name. Her text hits, like ASLAP. Cecilia, you're not invited to Bella's wedding. She doesn't want you there. I blink, certain I've misread it. Another message follows this one from my dad. Bella feels you're making her day about you. Tucker's parents want drama-free. Please, don't make this harder. My hands shake as I scroll. A third text from my cousin. Heard you're not coming. Hope you're okay. Okay. I've poured $85,000 into Bella's dream wedding. Venue, catering, photographer, flowers, everything, because I thought it would mean something to her, to us. I thought it would make us a family again, the way we used to be before life got complicated. I grew up in East Portland in a noisy house on 82nd Avenue where chaos was the default setting. My parents, Rosa and Miguel, came from Mexico before I was. Born, working long hours at a restaurant and a warehouse, their English halting and their dreams big but fragile. As the eldest, I was their translator, their planner, their fixer. At 10, I was calling the landlord about a leaky roof while Bella, 4 years younger, twirled in the living room singing to her stuffed animals. Cecilia knows what to do. Mom would say, her voice soft with gratitude, but heavy with expectation. I learned to read bills before I read novels to negotiate payment plans while Bella practiced her smile for school plays. By high school, I was color-coding our family's budget on a second-hand laptop while Bella charmed teachers into extra credit. I didn't mind, not really. I loved her spark, the way she could make anyone laugh. But I was the one who made sure the lights stayed on. When I graduated as valedictorian and left for college in Seattle, I carried 2 suitcases and a promise to myself I'd build a life where I didn't have to fix everything. I studied computer science, landed a job at a Portland tech firm, and worked nights until our startup was acquired. Suddenly, I was 28 with a bank account that felt like a secret I couldn't tell anyone. I didn't buy a fancy car or a big house. I stayed in my small apartment, saving, planning, always ready for the next crisis. And the crisis came. Dad's truck broke down. Mom's hours got cut. Bella's influencer gigs didn't pay the rent. Each time I wired money, not because they asked, but because I'd been trained to see the gaps before they did. So, when Bella called on night, her voice bubbling with excitement, Tucker proposed. Cecilia owned a rooftop with fairy lights. I didn't hesitate. I wanted her to have the wedding she dreamed of, the kind of day she'd pinned on her vision board since we were kids. She mentioned a venue in the Columbia Gorge, a sprawling estate with views of the river that started at $40,000. Tucker's parents might chipe in, she said, but Mom and Dad can't. Maybe you could help with a few things. I said yes, like I always did, picturing us planning together, laughing like sisters again. A few weeks after Bella's call, we met for brunch at a cozy spot in Southeast Portland. She slid a tablet across the table, her manicured nails tapping the screen. "Here's the plan," she said, her eyes bright. The spreadsheet was a maze of numbers. $100,000. Total covering the Columbia Gorge estate. A photographer catering for 150 guests, and a floral arch Bella had seen on Instagram. My stomach tightened. Small stuff, she called it. I glanced at her, waiting for a sign she was joking, but her smile was all expectation. "Tucker's parents are still deciding," she added, her voice soft, like she was asking for a favor instead of a fortune. I nodded, my throat tight, and said I'd cover the venue deposit to get things started. That was the beginning. The calls came late at night or during lunch breaks. The caterer needed a deposit. The dress designer was about to discontinue Bella's dream gown. Festering quartet Tucker loved had an opening if we paid now. Each time it felt like an emergency only I could solve. I built spreadsheets, tracked invoices, and sent payments, telling myself it was for Bella, for family. I imagined her walking down the aisle, her smile lighting up the gorge, and me standing there part of it all. But the more I paid, the less I was included. Bella stopped texting me updates. I wasn't added to the group chat for the bachelorette party. When I asked about Avenue Tour, she said, "Oh, it was last minute. I didn't think you'd be free." I rearranged. Meetings, took early buses, tried to stay involved, but it was like chasing a train that had already left the station point one afternoon. It stopped by a boutique hotel near Bella's apartment to drop off vendor contracts she'd asked for. I grabbed a coffee at the hotel cafe and froze when I saw Hurtwoo tables away, laughing with her maid of honor, Chloe. "Cecilia's being such a control freak," Bella said, her voice carrying. "Just because she's paying doesn't mean she gets to run my wedding." Chloe nodded, sipping her drink. "At least you're not in debt, right?" Let her stress over her spreadsheets. I stood there, contracts in hand, my chest tight. I'd spent hours organizing every detail, double-checking budgets, making sure her day would be perfect. And this was what she thought of me. I slipped out before they saw me, my hands shaking, the coffee turning cold in my grip. That night, I sat on my couch, staring at the spreadsheet glowing on my laptop. Every cell was a piece of Bella's dream. Flowers, lighting, the cake she'd raved about. I'd built it for her, for us. But now I wasn't sure who it was for. The hurt wasn't just about the money. It was the way she'd laughed, the way she'd reduced me to a paycheck and a problem. I wanted to call her, to scream, to ask why my love was never enough. But I didn't. I closed the laptop and let the silence settle, heavy and sharp. The final straw came during a Monday morning meeting at work. My phone buzzed between Slack alerts, and I ignored it, focusing on my team's code review. But when I checked, during a break, a text from Tucker's cousin stopped me cold. "Sorry, you're not coming to the wedding," Bella said. "You've been struggling. Feel better?" Struggling. I frowned, scrolling further. Another message. This one from a family friend. "Heard you've been having some issues, Cecilia. Sending love." My heart sank. I called Mom, my voice tight. What did Bella say about me? There was a long pause. "She just said you've been overwhelmed," Mom murmured. "That thestress might be getting to you." I pressed her, my voice low. "Did she tell Tucker's family I'm unstable?" Another pause, longer this time. She didn't mean it like that, Cecilia. She's just trying to keep things smooth with Tucker's parents. They're finally on board with the wedding. Smooth. The word burned. I'd paid for 90% of this wedding. $8,500 of my savings, while Bella planned spa weekends and dress fittings without me. And now she'd spun a lie that I was mentally unraveling to make herself look better. I hung up, my hands cold, and stared at my reflection in the office window. My family wasn't just ignoring me, they were erasing me. The hurt was a weight I couldn't carry anymore. 4 years, I'd been the one to fix things. Dad's late rent, Mom's medical, bills, Bella's bad leases. I thought this wedding would be different, a chance to show love instead of duty, but it wasn't. I was still the invisible scaffolding holding up their lives while they built a story that didn't include me. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. Something else settled in. Clarity, sharp and unyielding. They didn't get touse me and then discard me. Not this time. That night, I sat at my kitchen table. A mug of chamomile tea gone cold beside me. My laptop screen glowed with a wedding budget. Every dollar, every vendor, every receipt I'd tracked for months. I opened a new document and typed 3 headers. Pending payments, cancelable services, non-refundable, no tears, no hesitation, just focus. I went line by line, calculating what I could undo. The Columbia Gorge estate had a 72-hour cancellation clause with a partial refund. I called the coordinator, Sarah, someone I'd emailed dozens of times. Hi, Sarah, it's Cecilia Alvarez. I need to cancel their reservation. My voice was steady. I'm no longer attending the wedding I funded. Sarah paused, then said softly, I'm so sorry, Cecilia. Let's walk through it. She didn't cry, just processed their fund and emailed me a confirmation. Next, I called the florist, the string quartet, the rental company. Most were kind, some already knew. You're not the first sister to get sidelined, the photographer said quietly, but you're handling it with grace. By evening, I'd canceled everything I could, redirecting refunds to my savings. Then, opened the shared Google Drive full of seating charts, vendor quotes, my meticulous work, and deleted it all. I backed it up for myself, then wiped it from the cloud. It wasn't revenge. It was release. When Bella called, her voice was a mix of panic and rage. What is wrong with you, Cecilia? The venue canceled. The flowers are gone, everything's ruined, and it's your fault. I didn't flinch. You said I wasn't welcome. I said calm and clear. You wanted a perfect day without me. Now you've got it. She sobbed, accused me of jealousy, then hung up. Mom called next, then Dad. Their texts piling up. I blocked them all, not out of anger, but because I needed space to breathe. I wasn't their fixer anymore. The next morning, I searched for cabins in Mount Hood National Forest, craving silence and distance. I found a small one near a lake. No Wi-Fi, no signal, just trees and water. I booked it for a week, packed a bag, and drove out of Portland before dawn. As the city faded in my rear view, the knot in my chest loosened. The cabin was simple, a single room, with a wood stove and a creaky table. I left my laptop at home, turned off my phone, and let the quiet wrap around me like a blanket. Each morning, I hiked trails thick with pine and damp earth, the air sharp in my lungs. On the second day, I brought A journal. Not the planners I'd filled with budgets, but blank pages for thoughts I'd never said aloud. I wrote about the time Bella took credit for a school project I'd stayed up all night finishing, about the Christmases I paid for gifts no one thanked me for, about the ache of being needed but never seen. By the 5th day, I found a small waterfall hidden off a trail. I sat on a rock, tore my journal pages into strips, and let them float away in the current. It felt silly, but it was mine. A small act of letting go. The pain didn't vanish, but it changed shape like a stone smoothed by Theriver. I wasn't just grieving Bella's betrayal. I was grieving the version of myself who thought love meant solving everyone's problems. When I drove back to Portland, I booked my first session with Dr. Maisie Hayes, a therapist recommended by a coworker. She didn't ask for my life story right away. Instead, she asked, "Who are you when you're not fixing things for others?" I didn't have an answer, but for the first time, I wanted to find one. Therapy with Dr. Hayes became my anchor. We met weekly in her cozy office overlooking the Willamette River, where she helped me untangle the threads of my family's expectations. "They made you their crisis manager," she said one session, her voice gentle but firm. "You were their container for stress, and they called it love." I nodded, the truth settling like a stone. I'd spent my life carrying their chaos. Mom's worries, Dad's debts, Bella's dreams, because I thought it made me belong. But it had only made me invisible. We talked about guilt, how it was woven into my earliest memories. The way Mom's tired smile thanked me for calling the electric company at 12. The way Bella's tears always pulled me back to fix her messes. Dr. Hayes called it emotional outsourcing, a pattern I'd internalized until it felt like my purpose. Slowly, I started setting boundaries. I stopped answering texts that began with, "Can you just I donated to a coding program for girls in rural Oregon," redirecting the energy I'd spent on my family. I gave to a reforestation project in Mount Hood, remembering the trails that had held me together. Giving felt different when it wasn't expected of me. Holidays came and I didn't go back to East Portland. Instead, I spent Thanksgiving with my sea orcher Jordan and his friends who burned sweet potatoes and laughed about it. Christmas morning, I sipped coffee in a house full of board games and bad puns, surrounded by people who didn't ask me to prove my worth. For the first time, I felt like I belonged without a clipboard in my hand. Dr. Hayes called it reclaiming your orbit. I was starting to understand what she meant. One afternoon, a pale blue envelope arrived in my mailbox. My name scrolled in Bella's loopy handwriting. It was soft, like she'd carried it around before mailing it. Inside was a plain card. No frills, just her words. "I owe you an apology, Cecilia. Can we talk?" No excuses, no explanations, just a question. I set the card on my windowsill, unsure what to feel. For 3 days. It sat there catching a light. Finally, I texted her. Wednesday, 2:00 p.m. Stumptown Coffee. She replied, "I'll bether." I got to the cafe early, ordered a chai latte, and picked a corner table. When Bella walked in, she looked different. No influencer polish, just jeans and a loose bun. She sat down, her hands fidgeting. "I've been in therapy," she said, her voice steady, but soft since the wedding fell apart. "Tucker and I are splitting up. It's not his fault." "Not really. I built my whole life around what other people think of me. You, Mom, his parents. I listened, my Kai cooling untouched. I lied about you, she said, meeting my eyes. I told Tuckers, family, you were unstable because I was scared they wouldn't like me. I let you pay for everything, then pushed you out. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just need you to know I see it now. The words landed heavy, stirring an ache I thought I'd buried. I didn't speak, just nodded. We sat in silence for a while, not comfortable, but not hostile either. When she mentioned applying to a community college program for early childhood education, I asked to see the brochure. It wasn't a hug or a promise, but it was something, a crack in the wall between us. Life is quieter now, but it's no tempty. My dining table, a sturdy oak piece I found at a Portland flea market, holds 6 mismatched chairs, each one filled tonight with friends. Jordan passes a bowl of mashed potatoes, his laugh loud as he recounts a coding mishap. Across the table, my coworker Lena tells a story about her dog, and everyone leans in, glasses clinking. Noon asks what I've done to earn my place here. They just make space, and that's enough on the counter. Next to a stack of coasters sits Bella's card. Its edge is softer now. I don't know if we'll ever be the sisters we were as kids, giggling over late-night snacks in our old kitchen. But we're not strangers anymore, and that's a start. I've learned to hold my own space, to give without losing myself. Last week, I got a note from a girl in the coding program I fund. Tucked inside was a folded piece of paper, her handwriting small and careful. You showed me I can be more than I thought. I keep it by the sink, a reminder that I'm not just the fixer anymore. I'm the blueprint. To everyone who's followed this journey, thank you. You've walked with me through betrayal, boundaries, and the messy work of building something new. If my story hit you in the heart, hit that subscribe button and join us. Every table has a story of hurt, healing, and the courage to claim your seat. Keep carving out your own space, and I'll meet you.